Welcome to the Local Business Insider Podcast with the Small Business Owners Alliance. This is a space where we sit down with real entrepreneurs and talk about the wins, the lessons, and the honest moments that come with running a business. I'm your host, Nicole Redinbaugh, small business owner, insurance broker, and founder of the Small Business Owners Alliance here in the Omaha area. Whether you're local to Nebraska or just love learning from real-world business stories, you're in the right place.
Today's episode has a little twist. We're going to be interviewing Nicole Redinbaugh, co-owner and founder of Acuhawk Insurance Solutions. Together, we offer tailored coverage for small business, personal like home and auto, life, health, and more in our agency. We're backed by dozens of top-rated carriers and help our clients shop for the solutions that fit their needs to protect what matters most to them. Thanks for joining us today, Sean. We're glad to have you here and look forward to learning more about you on the Local Business Insider Podcast today.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you. So just like with any other guest, we're going to just kind of jump in and learn a little bit more about you and your background and kind of what brought you to working with Acuhawk Insurance Solutions.
Well, I have a background in my early days as in several different customer service type roles. I eventually found logistics, worked for a couple of different companies, worked for Warner for about 10 years. And then decided to venture into insurance when you started the business and had been open for about a year. And we talked about it and decided that I might be a good addition to help diversify what we offer.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been great being able to have a partner to work together with and be able to offer so much more to our clients as a result. What would you say has been the biggest benefit that you've personally experienced from networking with Chapter 2? You're the vice president there for Small Business Owners Alliance, but even just networking in general, what's been the biggest benefit?
Well, building relationships has always been a good portion of networking. When you're trying to build a business, that is key. The more relationships you have, the more opportunities become apparent. Referrals are great, but not only the referrals, we learn from each other. So as being in a group with other entrepreneurs, we can bounce ideas and brainstorm and find new ways to, bring our business to market.
That's great. Yeah. And what would you say has been the biggest mindset shift as you've kind of transitioned from working in the corporate world to now being an entrepreneur and working for Acuhawk Insurance?
Well, the biggest difference is, managing your own time. Mm-hmm. In a corporate world, you're always working for somebody and they kind of tell you where to be and when to be. Taking the leadership skills that I did learn in corporate and, leading myself and in our business. So that would be the biggest change.
Yeah, I think that's so important. In corporate world, it's all about, structured goal setting and certain, standardized processes you've got to go for. Somebody's telling you what, to do a lot of times. And yeah, as a small business owner, managing that all on your own is a big shift for sure. Would you say that as now you've been working in the business for well over a year, would you say that that's evolved over time and kind of how your mindset or approach has shifted now that you've had more time under your belt?
Well, sure. I mean, the clock isn't the guiding tool to when you're doing business. You don't stop doing business on the weekends. You don't stop doing business after 5 o'clock. Often you and I brainstorm, after dinner or just whenever we have a moment together, for different ideas that we have to, market the business and or take care of customers. So.
Yeah. Yeah, even if maybe, we have those standard operating hours for most customer interactions, not saying we don't go outside of that for sure sometimes, but yeah, it's that behind the scenes, the administration, the marketing, the finances, all of those conversations, that sometimes it's easier to kind of do that in the off hours when you've got that creative capacity, for sure. How would you explain how we've kind of chosen to divide up our roles in the business without stepping on each other's toes?
Well, I think that we play to our strengths. You are very creative with the marketing. I tend to be more focused on the procedures. So, you like dealing with life insurance and health insurance and things like that. And I prefer to do the personal insurance and the commercial insurance. With a background in logistics, I find the commercial insurance my favorite. And so, we just kind of play to our strengths.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think that combination, strengths and experience, and I think we've got, a good system, and I love seeing how it evolves over time as we go. So that's great. So as a business owner, you wear a lot of different hats, especially in a small business like us where it's really, the two of us kind of operating it. How would you say that you prioritize or stay focused when everything feels urgent that's coming at you?
Well, from logistics point of view, you can't do everything at once.
Mm-hmm.
I like to take little bites and work on them and finish the project. And, it's just the way I've always been, just little by little, I always move forward. So, it's just a matter of, that's my biggest strategy, is just taking off small bites and working at it and finishing the job and then going to the next move. So,
yeah, I love that we've found a way to balance each other's strengths with that, because sometimes I have a hard time like sitting down and focusing on the little pieces at a time. And it's so hard to narrow in when there's so many different things moving. So I love that you kind of help ground us in doing that when there's a lot of different things going on. What tasks take the most intentional effort, would you say, to stay on top of, and how do you manage that?
Well, I'd say following up with customers is probably the most intentional thing that you can do. Often, we'll be, bombarded sometimes with quote after quote, and, you've sent emails or made a phone call and, left a message for the client, and you're just waiting for their input or their questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, following up in a timely manner is, something that you really have to focus on so that you don't lose somebody to oblivion, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of focus for that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And especially as independent brokers like us, where it's not really something a lot of the times we can just like keep somebody live on the phone while we're quoting. There's so many different carriers we check with, and there's a lot of strategy that goes into reviewing their current insurance, if they have any that we're comparing it to, and really kind of building a process or a tool that, by the time you go to follow up with them, they may not always be available right away or, in a new headspace. So, I think that's great to kind of have that awareness of staying on top of it while still balancing it, because I think we're on the same team that we don't ever want to come across as pushy or too salesy. And I think trying to balance that with, hey, life's busy, maybe you need a reminder, but also not coming across too strong. So
Correct.
Yep. What would you say, because I know earlier you mentioned that you do a lot more with the business insurance side of things. What do you say is something that's really important for businesses to know and understand about business insurance?
Well, I think that a lot of people start a business and don't think about the insurance part. You get so focused on building your business that you forget to protect it. And it only takes one bad thing to happen, mm-hmm. and it can set your business back, or it can completely obliterate your business depending on the type of tragedy. So insuring yourself and protecting your business is, I think, must be forefront.
And I think, too, a lot of people that have to get general liability just to satisfy their landlord's requirements are oftentimes exposed in other ways they don't even realize that they're exposed. We've talked with business owners that didn't know that they needed commercial auto insurance, yet they're driving their personal vehicle around that probably has some exclusions and may even have signage on their vehicle, but they're not properly insuring it. So if there's a loss, they could face a claim denial. Or if it's a situation where they get, sued for something that's on the professional liability side of things, and they don't realize that general liability doesn't cover errors or omissions that they might have in the teaching, coaching, or professional services that they offer.
Like, contractors, they start work on something, they have a contract to do the work, but they're unable to finish. Having insurance can keep them from being devastated in their business if they're unable to fulfill a contract. So, those are lots of things that people don't think about when they start their business. Especially if you're just not really in a more corporate type of business. Lawn care people often start mowing lawns and don't think about, something happened, threw a rock, hit somebody's window, things like that. So, a lot of times, business might not be able to absorb those things.
So a lot of times we get asked from people about how do they go about turning their hobby into a real business. Maybe it's been a side hustle, or they envision, making it into something more, and they don't necessarily know about how to get started with that. So online, a lot of times, you'll see, okay, you've got to set up your LLC, you got to get your EIN or tax ID number, look into getting your business bank account, that sort of thing. But a lot of times they may not think about their business insurance. So what are some types of business insurance or things that people should consider about maybe why they need it when they're first getting started and kind of launching into that transition from a hobby to a business?
Every business needs a minimum of general liability insurance. Turning your hobby into a business, often you're going to find that it requires that if you want to run a booth at a craft show, if you're just a crafter, if you're a lawn guy and you want to, make sure that you're covered for accidents and things like that happen. If you're a contractor, you need insurance for your, any accident that might happen on the site. If you're hiring employees, you definitely need insurance. It's the law that you have workman's comp if you hire employees. So those are some key triggers that often get people looking for insurance, is that they found that they can't do a road show, or somebody won't hire them to mow their lawn because they're not insured, or won't give them a contract for the contractors, etc. So those are the things that usually trigger people to start searching for insurance. Now, there's always options online, but you never know what is covered online. Especially if you don't speak insurance, and so we try to, here at Acuhawk, we try to make sure that you get the right package for what you're doing. There's, not a one size fits all type of insurance when it comes to business insurance. Often people will do, say, they run a lawn business, but they also, in the wintertime, they scoop snow. There's specific insurance for that stuff. You can't just be covered under your lawn business, but also be covered under your snow business. Or hanging lights. Nowadays, permanent lights is a big thing. That's a completely different type of insurance if you're a lawn guy.
So the exclusions there too, right?
So you want somebody like me to sift through the jargon and get a good picture of what you do, and then get you a custom package that covers the things that you do, because you don't want to be that guy that or gal that gets in an accident or has some mishap and just have no coverage. it defeats the whole purpose of why you're buying insurance. And that can easily happen when you're just kind of trying to shop around on your own and you don't really understand that there's multiple categories to your business. So we try to help that out and get a comprehensive package for you.
Yeah, that's great. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand that difference between professional liability, general liability, or even that if you are like a nonprofit, for example, and have a board, that sometimes that board can even be held liable. There's specific types of insurance for that. And so I think, really kind of having that professional to guide you through. And then we try our best to really kind of give you the information so that the client can make the decision on what their risk tolerance is and, what they're comfortable with, and try to help them understand so they feel confident in making a decision that fits their needs.
Right.
So, what is the best way if somebody decides that they end up wanting to work with us? What's the best way for them to contact and kind of initiate that quote process?
Well, we make it pretty easy peasy. You can go to our website, Acuhawk.com. We have forms and questionnaires you can fill out there, or you can call us, email us, or even text us. So we're available to anybody pretty easy.
Yeah, and thanks so much for sharing. The contact information for Acuhawk Insurance Solutions will be listed in the show notes, so you can reach out. Would encourage you to like and follow Acuhawk Insurance, as well as us for the Small Business Owners Alliance on this page here for the Local Business Insider podcast. We would invite you to follow us so that you can join us to learn more about other local businesses in our area and kind of see behind the scenes from different industries and perspectives on how we approach small business networking.